Hello, everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on February 6, 2017. And this Raw was actually not too bad of a Raw from my standpoint. There was a couple really kind of out there and not so good moments. I'll get into those here in a little bit. But we'll start off the show with what I thought was a pretty good segment. You had Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon out there, and they were bringing out Samoa Joe to sign his contract for Monday Night Raw. And the main reason why I kind of like this segment, at least from at the beginning of it, and pretty much at the end of it as well, Mick Foley is out there, and he's kind of downplaying the whole fact that Samoa Joe's coming to Monday Night Raw, kind of just being ho-hum and contrite, and you even get this bit where, like, Stephanie's like, why aren't you so excited, and everything in that sense, and basically, like, Mick was kind of standing up for himself at this point. He wasn't that person that was just kind of, going with the flow of things, and just kind of like, okay, this is what's going to happen, type of feel, because the tension was continuing to build more and more, or is continuing to build more and more now with Stephanie and Mick, which is going to probably lead to Stephanie firing Mick at some point in time or something in that sense. And I like the aspect of it. The promo that Samoa Joe cut, I thought was a pretty good one. I've always liked his promo style. He can be very intense for the most part, but he also came like this time he came out intense but in control of everything, and it just came off well. And I like the aspect that he came out in a suit. He didn't just come out like in a t-shirt or anything like that. He came out in a suit, like contriving the whole fact that he is with Stephanie and he is with Triple H and he's with basically with them in every facet, instead of just like, oh, I'm their hired gun, but I'm going to come out here in whatever attire I feel like. No, he comes out suit, tie, looking nice and everything in that sense. I liked where they went with it. So he continues cutting his promo about what he had done to Seth Rollins and everything in that sense, and this does bring out Roman Reigns, who, well, actually this time around it didn't feel like he got booed all that much, but he cut his promo on Samoa Joe himself. Again, not bad here. I kind of like this variation of Roman a little bit better. He wasn't coming off as like, oh, I'm going to just start making jokes and everything like that. No, completely serious, completely in an area that he doesn't need to, or like that whole joking side that he had done a long time ago. He doesn't really need that for his promos. Being serious, being like coming out there, being that guy who's like an ass kicker, is better for Roman in my thought, or at least in my opinion, in that sense. And it came off a little bit better. I like this promo from Roman Reigns. I had no problem with it. And this leads Mick Foley to making the match later in the night, Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Because up next, they had Bayley going up against Nia Jax. They had a quick backstage segment with Cesaro and Sheamus with Bayley as she was coming to the ring. So they're kind of continuing on that a little bit, or I don't know exactly where they're gonna go, if they're gonna go anywhere with that. But the whole aspect of like Cesaro kind of playing along with everything with Bayley, and Sheamus like being completely against it is kind of funny too, to go along with it. But they continued on with that a little bit, though most people thought that would be like a 1 week thing, but apparently it was at least a 2 week thing. But Bayley versus Nia Jax. First, before the match actually started, they announced that next week that Bayley is going to go up against Charlotte for the Raw Women's title. And again, that's going to lead people to believe that Charlotte's going to lose that match and Bayley wins the title next week. Because guess what? That is where Charlotte loses the belt. She loses it on Raw, but wins it on pay-per-view. I'm not 100% sold on the factor that they're going to put the title on Bayley next week, because it feels like Bayley's first title win should come on the bigger stages, or should come on the one of the big stages. If like her first title win feels like it should come on either WrestleMania or SummerSlam, but I also feel like it should come in a one-on-one match, which is what next week is too, and not like a fatal four-way or a multi-woman match in any way. So I personally don't think they're gonna put the title on Bayley next week, but I wouldn't be shocked that they do it just to have her drop it at Fastlane again, to keep that whole pay-per-view streak thing going, and also get the belt on Bayley and, get the huge pop, because honestly, the crowd was actually into this match. Watching this match, like, they were heavily against Nia Jax in all of her offense, and her looking like a monster inside the match, and Bayley having to continually fight back the entire time. I thought they put on a good match. This match between Bayley and Nia Jax was kind of to the level of where they're in it. Probably a little bit under, but their NXT TakeOver match that they had last year. Or was it last year? Or was it December of 2015? It might have been December of 2015 when they were in London. But it was kind of on that level, a little bit below that. And they also played off the aspect of next week that she's going up against Charlotte, and Charlotte came out. Bayley gets distracted, but dispatches of Charlotte, but runs into Nia Jax to eat the loss in this case. So it does feel like that they are building up to a fatal four-way, because later in the night you also had Charlotte basically running down Sasha Banks in the trainer's room, which it is weird because, like, Sasha Banks isn't even going to be out there. It felt like that she was only there for that promo. It came off a little bit weird in that sense, but it also kind of plays off of the aspect that Sasha's getting run down like this and everything in that sense. You feel a heel turn coming in some way, shape, or form from Sasha Banks. I personally would wait for them to do it after WrestleMania, but you can also see them doing it beforehand. Up next was Braun Strowman going up against 4 jobbers, and it was like, okay, here comes, because at the beginning it's like, okay, Strowman's coming out, he's gonna have a match, and then all of a sudden the following is a handicap match, and it was a 4-on-1 handicap match, and I was like, instantaneously 4 jobbers. You didn't even have to look in the ring. It's like, okay, 4-on-1, he's going up against a bunch of jobbers, which he did. He squashes them really quickly, and I like the aspect of him piling up the 3 that were there because one ran away to go along with it. And, in the end, I've always liked the squash match. I don't know why. I guess it's just an aspect that you get to build you can build a character off of it and everything in that sense. So I've kind of always liked that squash match to build monsters and everything in that sense of it. And after the match, Braun gets on the microphone again and says, Foley, competition, this isn't the competition he wants. So they went back to the old competition thing, and he's like, immediately goes to the back to find Foley. Foley finds him, and basically they have a back and forth between the two of them, which led to Foley making the match at Fastlane, Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns, because of the whole week before and everything in that sense. And guess what? This isn't the last we see of Strowman, and I'll talk about that a little bit later again. Up next, we'll talk about the Cruiserweight segments on the show. We had, first of all, the segment I really enjoyed. There was a couple bits here that I kind of actually enjoyed. The Cruiserweight stuff was a lot better this week. At least I thought it was. Maybe not the 6-man tag later on in the night, but that was because it was rather short. But you had Akira Tozawa going up against Drew Gulak to begin. Akira Tozawa was making his Raw debut, but he had debuted on 205 Live. And here's the thing about Akira Tozawa. He's done one thing that kind of, outside maybe Jack Gallagher, one thing that most people really haven't done in the Cruiserweight division. He garnered a reaction from that Raw crowd first night. because of how he was going. He was interacting with the crowd. They were interacting back with him with the like his screams and everything. In that sense, you felt that the crowd was feeding to the energy with Akira Tozawa, and he looked good in the ring too. I thought this came off great. I loved where Akira Tozawa, how Akira Tozawa came off inside of this match. The match itself was. It was just a good showing all around, and the German suplex to finish off the match looked absolutely great and devastating to go along with it. I absolutely love this. Like I said before, he did something that most of the cruiserweights fully haven't done with this Raw crowd, and that's garner a reaction night one from them, and I think that's going to be something to see down here in the near future. Now, for the other segment of the night, you had Austin Aries in the ring, and he's kind of continuing on with his journalistic side of everything, and he was going to interview Neville. And this is where they announced that Rich Swann had suffered a foot injury and was actually going to be out of action. So they were coming up, so they make the announcement about a fatal five-way that was going to happen on 205 Live to make the new number one contender for the Fastlane pay-per-view for the Cruiserweight title. And you have some great bits in there. I love the way Austin Aries comes off. It's like he plays up to everybody, and it's not like he plays just a heel to the faces. He kind of plays a heel to the heels too, because he asks like, I won't say, well, kind of a almost like kind of a snarky question to Neville, and he just comes back with a snarky response to go along with it. And just everything that Austin Aries was doing was thoroughly entertaining, and I liked where everything was going. Like the whole aspect of when like Perkins came out, Tony Nese coming out, and let's see who Cedric Alexander was there, Drew Gulak was in, not Drew Gulak, Jack Gallagher was in there. There's one more that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, and I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that one. Sorry, I just can't remember the fifth dude in there. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Gallagher, Perkins, Cedric Alexander, Tony Nese. Oh, Noam Dar. Noam Dar was in there. And the stuff that Austin Aries was coming up with as everything was going by just saying the whole aspect of, this is supposed to be a one-on-one interview, guys. What's this? I need to, build my journalistic integrity kind of stuff was great. But he was also coming up with, like, quick one-liners and everything, like, quick one-liners while everyone was coming out. Like, when Tony Nese comes out, it's like, oh, and here comes Tony Nese's abs. Like, this was good stuff. I liked where they were going with this. I also like the aspect that like everybody got like a little bit of mic time, with the exception of Tony Nese. Of course, they're kind of playing off of that. This does eventually lead to a brawl after T.J. Perkins cuts his promo, which I thought T.J. Perkins came off rather well in his promo to go along with everything this week. That instituted the brawl, which instituted a 6-man tag right afterwards. The faces win in what was an okay match. I like the aspect of Neville not caring about tag matches at all in the Cruiserweight division. It's like, why are we doing this? And he's just like gone. Like, it's like, I'm done with this. I'm out of here at the end of the match, which allowed the faces to garner the win in the end with Cedric Alexander doing the lumbar check. Yes, Cedric Alexander hit the lumbar check, getting the win, and the faces celebrate to go along with everything. Now, to go on with the rest of the show here, we had Chris Jericho. We had a bunch of segments with Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens, but this one started off this one was in the ring. Kevin Owens comes out with Chris Jericho. Jericho starts off the promo with everything, and and this garnered probably the biggest reaction of the entire, well, maybe not of the entire night, but this garnered a great reaction because from everything from the night before the Super Bowl, now like everybody's calling Tom Brady greatest of all time in the terms of quarterbacks, which I guess some people could debate. It's a lot harder to debate when he has 5 Super Bowls now. For a lot of other people, but the aspect that that they're using that acronym. Jericho feels like that he steals his nickname. So what does he do? He puts Tom Brady on the list, and the crowd pops. The crowd pops for it. It was absolutely great. And they, Jericho and Owens were kind of doing their typical fare, and Goldberg comes out. First of all, Goldberg kind of brushes them off a little bit right at the beginning, but gets to them a little bit later on because because Goldberg was there to answer Brock Lesnar's challenge. So he kind of brushed off the challenge as well by getting to it really quickly. It's like, Brock, I accept your challenge, and then he goes on to Owens and Jericho and starts cutting their because after he does that, Owens is like, that's a great thing. It's like, that seems like it could be a good mid-card match to KO Mania 2, which kind of got Goldberg up in arms with everything, and he eventually challenges Kevin Owens to a Universal title match for Fastlane, because obviously Kevin Owens doesn't have a match. And Jericho's going on and going on, as it looks like, and I absolutely love the way that this worked out in the end. As he was about to put Goldberg on the list, Goldberg just, picks up Jericho's list. He does that moment, just takes it out of his hand, takes the pen, and then just writes himself on the list. And it just said, "Hey, Goldberg just made the list." I love that bit. And this does eventually lead to Jericho accepting the challenge of Goldberg to Kevin Owens for Fastlane. And I like this aspect that, they're building the tension between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, because you had that with Owens accepting a U.S. title match with Roman Reigns. Now you have Jericho accepting a Universal title match for Owens with Goldberg. So they're building that tension, but they continue going throughout the entire night about having Jericho's always got your back and everything in that sense. So kind of bringing the friendship back together to go along with it. And this leads to Jericho announcing that there's going to be next week the Festival of Friendship and everything in that sense. And that should be interesting to see how they play that off, because the segment itself sounds terrible, but there's a chance that they can make that good. So we'll see how everything ends out going in the end. But overall, I ended up thoroughly enjoying that segment. Now, this one, I didn't care for all that much. We're going to get into some stuff I really didn't care too much about. The Cesaro and Sheamus versus Gallows and Anderson match for the tag team titles. The reason why I didn't care for this is, why was Enzo and Cass out there? They were just there at ringside. And they were just there at ringside. It wasn't one of those bits that was like, oh, we're here at commentary. No, they're at ringside just watching the match. And they're saying it's like, oh, we're going to go out. We want the tag team titles afterwards. And it was literally the aspect of they were out there literally just to cause the DQ. Because midway through the match, which obviously the match was going on well, because those two teams work well together. But they played it off as Gallows just hits Enzo, which causes Cass to hit Gallows, which causes the DQ. It serves a purpose in the end, because I feel like maybe they're going for a triple threat match or something in that sense. But with both teams, it doesn't make Cesaro and Sheamus actually lose, and it just, but in the end, it just kind of felt out there and off the wall, and it just felt kind of forced. It wasn't one of those things that was really built up to in any way, and it was, I didn't really like it in the end. And like I said, Enzo and Cass have been kind of waning on me a little bit, because I mean, if you really look at Enzo and Cass, yeah, they come up with a lot of good one-liners and everything in that sense, or at least Enzo does, and they're funny. Don't get me wrong, but they're totally heels. Both of these, or at least Enzo is totally a heel in most cases. Not so much here. because he gets attacked by Gallows, and they really weren't doing much of anything outside of Enzo doing like a little bit of trash talking, which caused him to get kicked, which, yeah, probably deserved it in the end, I guess, in that one. And then Cass, of course, kicks Gallows. That's how the DQ happens. I was not a big fan of this one, but like I said, it could be leading to a triple threat. At least that's how I feel it's going to go. Or it's going to lead to Gallows and Anderson versus Enzo and Cass. I don't know exactly where they're going with this one. I feel the triple threat coming more than anything else, so we'll see how everything goes. Up next, they had New Day going up against the Shining Stars. It was a decent match, but like served no purpose in the end. Like, you have New Day, who's like massively over, so I guess you got to have them out there just going up against the Shining Stars. That's it. It was a decent competitive style match without much to it. Though the New Day, which they got it over throughout the entire crowd. Again, WWE seems to be teasing ice cream for people. They did this a long time ago with CM Punk teasing the ice cream bars, and now New Day's doing it. And guess what? The crowd was chanting ice cream throughout the entire match to go along with it. So I feel like they're going to be doing something with that. Like, there you go, more products to sell for the New Day. There you go. But in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really serve much outside of getting New Day out there and putting them over even more in that sense of it. But yeah, not much to this one. Up next was Sami Zayn and Chris Jericho. This was a good match. I like this match. Chris Jericho and Sami Zayn worked well together here, just like they did last week. I found the match thoroughly enjoyable. And like I said, they had done this whole thing throughout the entire show. It's like, oh, there was a bit of tension between Jericho and Owens, but they had, patched things up. And that's when they announced the whole Festival of Friendship thing. And, of course, Owens was out there to help Jericho in his match with Sami Zayn, just like Jericho's supposed to be out there with Owens in his match with Goldberg at Fastlane and everything in that sense. And the two of them have each other's back, and it should be all good and everything for them afterwards. But all in all, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I liked how the finish goes because it plays off the aspect that, Owens has Jericho's back, so Jericho's going to have Owens back and everything in that sense, because at the end, referee distracted, super kick to the head, causing the co-breaker to allow Jericho to get the victory. And you can even play off the aspect that, Sami Zayn might get another match here down the road or something in that sense as well. So it came off rather well. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. And this leads into the main event of the night, which was why am I saying Jericho? He was just in the last match. I mean, I guess he could have two matches in one night, but most cases not going to happen. Which was Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns. This is a mixed bag match for me. I thought the match was fine in most cases, but they play it off, and don't get me wrong, I kind of saw this coming when they made the whole Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns a Fastlane match earlier in the night. Of course, Braun Strowman was going to come out and cause the distraction. And guess what? Another match with a screwy finish tonight, because actually, we'll take a look at this. Bayley and Nia Jax, screwy finish. Cesaro and Sheamus, Gallows and Anderson, screwy finish. Zayn and Jericho, screwy finish. Good match, screwy finish, and actually a good segment too. And, and the Joe Roman Reigns match, screwy finish. I wouldn't have necessarily done this with the Roman Reigns Samoa Joe match. I would have tried putting over Joe, like, clean the first night and over super strong to play off of that. But I guess they had to do something with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman as well to build that up a little bit to go along with it. So I'm okay with it. And in all honesty, most of these screwy finishes are building to something else. Like with Bayley and Nia, it was building more towards Bayley and Charlotte the next week and everything in that sense. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of like the whole Enzo and Cass just being randomly out there for that match. Like, it was the beginnings of a storyline, not necessarily the continuations. A lot of these were continuations for something down the road here, where Enzo and Cass wasn't so much. It was kind of the beginnings, and that's how they started off. It's like, hey, screwy finish for a match. That's how we're going to begin your storyline. All right. But back on the Joe and Reigns here. Overall, the match was fine. I wish they would have tried putting Samoa Joe over like crazy strong off the bat, but not have him necessarily have to have Braun Strowman's help, especially after he attacked Roman Reigns and practically laid him out before the match to go along with it. And Roman was able to fight back throughout the entire thing. It's like, why don't you just have Joe, if you're going to do this aspect of a screwy finish, why don't you have Joe come out there just with a normal entrance? And then the whole screwy finish thing probably comes off a lot better. But no, they had Joe take him out before, like take out Roman Reigns before the match, and then of course, Joe dominates most of the match, but then Roman has to make the comeback and everything, and it causes Strowman to eventually come out and distract Roman Reigns to make him lose the match. Like I said, mixed bag. The match was fine. Like, quality of the in-ring work was good. Don't get me wrong. It's just maybe the storytelling was a little bit off to me with that particular match. But overall, this week's Raw was not a bad one. Like I said, they built story going into Fastlane and going into next week's Raw as well to go along with it. I actually did kind of enjoy those aspects of the show. So overall, I thought it was a pretty good show. I wish they would have come up with a better way for Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns to end, but it is what it is in that one. They're protecting Roman Reigns in that sense of everything. So it is what it is for, I guess, in the end for that one. But overall, not a bad Raw this week. So with that being said, guys, this is that was my review for Monday Night Raw. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day.